Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sound Archives. My name is Christian Maiorino. I'm the host of this channel. Today's episode is going to be part 3 of the Metallica versus Megadeth series that I've been running this month. Today will be part 3. We'll be focusing on the period from roughly the mid-1990s into the 2000s, and then the fourth part will be the last part of this series. It's taken me a little bit longer to get to this video because we're almost at the end of March right now, but I'm planning on recording these videos back to back, so I'll have them up before the end of the month within the next couple of days. We have that. Focusing on our topic today, as I was saying before, we're now moving into the mid '90s period with both of these bands, and today I'm going to start out focusing on this album right here, which was Euthanasia from Megadeth, which came out in 1994. So this follows up Countdown to Extinction, which came out in '92, and the sound there goes a little bit further into a more, I guess you could say, mainstream type sound, less aggressive, thrashy, kind of going more melodic, I guess. But still a pretty good album overall. It opens with the opening track, Reckoning Day, which I love the kind of the drum outro at the end of that song. I always thought that sounded cool. Train of Consequences, another good song. Addicted to Chaos. A Toot La Mode, which is kind of a personal song there for Dave Mustaine, writing about some of the things that he was going through, I guess, at the recording of this album. Victory, the last track, is one that I always enjoyed because their lyrics are kind of chronicling all the previous Megadeth albums and songs up to that point. Family Tree, Blood of Heroes, Black Curtains, overall good album. And like I was saying, it's not quite doesn't have the thrashy aggressiveness that Rust in Peace has, or doesn't even have some of the more punchy moments that even Countdown to Extinction has, but there's definitely still a subdued darkness to the songs here, which I really appreciate. Still kind of a cerebral type of attitude to it, and it's also one of the first for this album. It was the first time where Megadeth kept the same lineup for a third album in a row. He still had Nick Menza and Marty Friedman playing on this. And of course, that lineup would remain intact pretty much throughout the rest of the 1990s. Unlike previous albums where they hadn't had a consistent lineup for more than 2 albums in a row. Also, I remember this album fondly because of buying it the day it came out back in 1994. I was at that age. I was 13 going on 14. I remember being really excited when this album came out and listening to it a ton back when it first came out. I haven't listened to it too much over the years, but I've gotten reacquainted with it, and I do enjoy it quite a bit still. So there we go, Euthanasia from 1994. At this same period, 94, we're still waiting on that new Metallica album to come out. They hadn't done it, released anything since '91. 95 comes along. We still don't have anything new. And then finally, by 1996, all these years later, we finally get this from Metallica. Okay. I remember hearing the song "Until It Sleeps." I believe that was the first video that came out, and I wasn't impressed at all. I remember thinking, it's like, these guys, they've taken so long to put out new music, and this is what we got. Not good. And then I never bought the CD back in the day because I couldn't stomach what I was seeing, but I did get this one, which is this bootleg Garage Days 2. And the guys are looking like this now. Coming out with their suspenders or whatever, cutting their hair. I mean, not that that's the worst of it, but just this type of style change right here. Um, I don't know. So then, you get to the album, which opens up with the song Ain't My Bitch, which, uh, I don't know. It just sounds dumb to me. Um, the sound was going more in this kind of hard rock type of direction. It wasn't really, the essence of what Metallica was gone by this point. Hetfield just, kind of had his Cowardly Lion barking going on for the vocals, which kind of started on the Black Album, I think, and maybe even a little bit on Injustice for All. But songs like Ain't My Bitch, I don't know, don't like it. 2x4, The House Jack Built, like I said, Until It Sleeps. Didn't like that song. Hero of the Day. I mean, that one sounds like something that, I don't know, Pearl Jam or Bush or Better Than Ez or whatever, any of those alternative bands that were coming out. I mean, Mama Said, how do they go from Master of Puppets to Mama Said? I don't know. Anyway, when this album came out, I completely jumped off the Metallica train. They just seemed to... They didn't even want to be a heavy metal band anymore. I think the fame that they achieved with the Black Album just shot them up into this stratosphere where, they just became completely impervious to the fan base that put them there in the first place. Metallica was the band that throughout the 80s, when other bands were, trying to do these over-the-top type of stage shows and whatever, the hair metal thing, the hairspray, and all that. They were the band that, they looked like four regular dudes, came up out of the crowd, went up on stage, and just played, just kick-ass music. And then they did this. So, I don't know. To me, they just completely... I guess a lot of people said they sold out with the Black Album, and that's probably true. I mean, they definitely streamlined their sound, you could say, and it reached a bigger audience. But this is where they just completely lost it for me. I jumped off the train, and I can't say I've ever really gotten back on after this. So, yeah, if I'm comparing, of course I don't have the CD, but if I'm comparing, for Load anyway, but if I'm comparing Load to Euthanasia, I mean, Euthanasia is definitely the better album of the two. Oh, and one more thing with this Load. The album cover here. Who thought it would be cool to just take a picture of blood and jism, put that as your album cover, and think that, I don't know, you're being cool or edgy? I don't know. I don't think it's cool or edgy. I think it sucks. But anyway, we got what we got. So then, so that came out in 1996. So moving into 1997, of course, Metallica came out with Reload. So there you go. So apparently they had enough songs to do a double album with Load, but they decided not to quite do a double album and, wait to work on those extra songs that they had to release at a later time, which they did. Again, this one opens with Fuel, one of those, probably the more well-known song of this album, which is, it's hard rock, it's fast, it's energetic, but I don't know, to me the lyrics are dumb. Give me fuel, give me fire, whatever, Hetfield is saying there. It's just mumbled jargon, I think. Still hate it. Memory Remains, you have that weird old lady type vocalization going on in the song. Stupid. Unforgiven 2, that was an alright song, but, do we need to rehash that here? I don't know. One of the other songs a lot of people gravitate to on here is Fixer, which is the last track. I don't really like it. I mean, to me, this album is just as awful as Load. And again, it's, I guess they wanted to stay in that stratosphere of fame, and with the mid-90s, metal kind of not being as popular as it was, and they're, I guess, trying to stick with that type of sound and just to keep that level of popularity. But for me, they had lost me, so that was stupid. So anyway, also coming out in 1997, Megadeth released the Cryptic Writings album, which I'm going to try to pull up here because I did not have a copy of this one back in the day. A lot of friends of mine, or a couple friends of mine, had this CD. So I guess I never really felt the need to pick that one up on CD. But anyway, this one, it goes even another step further with kind of watering down their sound. And, you have Trust, Almost Honest, Use the Man. 3 opening tracks there are probably the best ones that are known. Then you get the Disintegrators, which tries to, isn't quite as thrashy or heavy as anything from like Rust in Peace, but it's definitely trying to capture that moment still. And She-Wolf is another one that does that. Overall, this Cryptic Writings is okay. I definitely prefer it to Reload, I would say. But again, I'm not an album that I'm really too big on. I think that I kind of see Cryptic Writings as kind of Megadeth's Black Album in that their sound of what the essence of what Megadeth is still there, but it's kind of watered down and dumbed down enough that it still feels like, something different, but not completely different, in the way that the Black Album was with Metallica. It just took Megadeth, I think, a few more albums to just to kind of get to that point. Obviously it started with Countdown to Extinction, and then they completed it with this album. I do remember seeing them on this tour. It was actually 1998 at the Hartford Meadows Music Theater in Hartford, which was actually a fun time at the show. I remember driving up with a friend. We went in his pickup truck, and for whatever, the truck wasn't in good shape, so you couldn't like drive full speed on the highway, so we had to take back roads for a good part of the way there. But at one point we did have to get on the highway, so he had to put his hazard lights on, in the right lane, and cars are honking and beeping behind him on the way there and on the way back home. We were tailgating at the show. We were grilling hot dogs. Some young ladies, they came up and wanted to talk to us, but we were still in high school at the time, and I think they were, probably like in their early 20s. So when they realized like we were still in high school, they kind of like walked away. Didn't want anything to do with high school boys. But hey, was what it was. It was still a good show. So anyway, that was my memory from Cryptic Writings. So going a little bit further into the 90s, going to the end, with Megadeth, they eventually put out this album right here, Risk. Risk, you could say, is Megadeth's Load, I think, in that they kind of just completely changed their sound on this one, trying to be alternative or whatnot. You get the opening track, Insomnia. It's like you listen to this right away. It's like, there's something wrong here. Houston, we have a problem. There's some orchestral parts in there, but I don't know. It just, not a fan of that song at all. Crush 'Em, that one just sounds like a bluesy 9 Inch Nails type song. Ugh, not that good. Breadline, no. I don't know. This is an album I just really can't get into it at all. And even today, I still can't get into it. A lot of fans will say it's Megadeth's worst album, and I would agree with that. It's probably my least favorite from them. So after that, they kind of, sliding into the new millennium in 2001, they came out with this album right here, World Needs a Hero. And this one, I wouldn't say it's quite a return to form. It kind of sounds more like Cryptic Writings. I think they realized what a turd Risk was. And of course, at the same time, they're the lineup that Megadeth had throughout the 90s with Marty Friedman and Nick Menza. Of course, I believe Nick Menza was out by Risk, and this one, Marty Friedman was out, and they had Al Pitrelli on lead guitar on this one. And though it's not as bad as Risk, it's still not that good. And the song Moto Psycho, I don't know. I just think it's just a dumb song title. Just a dumb kind of sounding song overall. Dread in the Fugitive Mind is alright. That's an okay song. And then you had Return to Hangar, which wasn't bad, but again, It's not as good as the original Hangar 18 from Rust in Peace. So, you know, there you have it with those albums. You know, sadly, after World Needs a Hero came out, of course, Dave Mustaine was having some personal problems. Apparently, he was back into rehab going 2002. And then he also announced at that point that he was breaking up Megadeth because he had some type of injury in his left arm, couldn't play guitar. So, you know, at that point, I assumed Megadeth was done. I wasn't, you know, impressed with any of those albums, so I kind of really stopped paying attention to them at that point. Now going back to Metallica at this period, also in the early 2000s, you know, they kind of seem to be falling apart as well. They did this movie called Some Kind of Monster, which was chronicling the recording of the Saint Anger album, which is, I'll pull it up right here, and this album right here. You know, if you ever seen that movie, you may agree with me that it's, you know, whatever, an hour and a half or 2 hours if you like that you're not going to get back. I got it as a gift, as a DVD at, you know, birthday or Christmas time or what have you. So I did watch it, and I don't know, it's the band trying to talk with the psychologist about, you know, just the infighting that they were having. Of course, Jason Newsted, he felt they were, you know, the rest of the band was full of crap at this period. So he quit Metallica at this point. So when they were doing this album, they had their producer, Bob Rock, filling in on bass. And, you know, I didn't even bother trying to seek this out back in the day. I had already, like I was saying before, I had jumped off the Metallica train with Load, so I really wasn't on the lookout when this album came out. I did get the movie as a gift, and I watched it, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm glad I didn't even bother. Though I did a few years ago try to go back and listen to a lot of these albums to see, you know, is my opinion still the same? Do I like it? Do I hate it? And this one right here, it's just awful. The opening track right away, Frantic, it's just dumb. It's frantic, tick, 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 tick. Stupid lyrics, insane anger. My lifestyle equals my death style. Stupid lyrics. I'm madly in anger with you. I was listening again, obviously, to prepare for this video. And, you know, if I had this on CD or a record, I would have just took that thing and just chucked it across the room. Awful. Awful. After the second track, I didn't even want to listen to it anymore. So, I mean, you know, they were completely off the rails. You know, Megadeth at this period was also, you know, we thought they were no more. If I'm going to compare the two albums that were kind of close right here, say The World Needs a Hero to Saint Anger, I would say I like The World Needs a Hero better. If I were to compare Saint Anger to Risk, I don't know, both albums are freaking awful, so I can't say I like one better than the other. I probably hate them both. I would say I probably hate them both equally, but I don't know. So that's where I'm going to conclude. That's where I shall conclude this video for today. So in the comment sections below, let me know what you think of these albums. I mean, everyone has different opinions of these. I think most people kind of trash on a lot of these albums that I've talked about today, especially on the Metallica side, maybe even a little bit on the Megadeth side too. But, you know, I know there's fans out there who probably appreciate the Load and the Reload and the Saint Anger album. So if you like these albums and you want to defend them in the comment sections. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And next up, I'll be doing part 4 of this series, which will be the final part. So, with that, this is the Sound Archive sounding off.